Every episode in BFB led to a team being up for elimination.
Too fast. Ref, do something. Ref, you know what I think? Ref, since it's part 2 with Gen Alpha comments, ref, hear me out. I feel like every time there's bad spelling, it should be a removal. Since it's part 2. It's part 2. That's the best thing you should do. That's a hell yeah. On part 2? That's one of the boxes though? That's fine. We do that all the time. That's fine. It's okay. It could be a box and still be a rule. That's why I made it a rule, because it's a box. Ref, you taking that deal, ref? Don't listen to chat. Don't listen to chat. DJ Reds? The only person who could say no deal is ref. Ref, you gonna say nah? You gonna say nah to that? After he just said ref yourself? Ref, you gonna say nah and they're talking to you like that? Me personally, bruh. Ref says, wait, damn, fuck yeah then. Ref, is that final answer? Yes. And the rules have been shifted. Every time there is bad spelling, there will be a removal on the board.
6-7.
6-1. 6-1.
41.
Make that smaller. 41.
Smiles warmly.
What?
I love joking around. with you guys.
What?
I can't stop listening
What is
to
happening?
it.
You have to press where it says pause.
He's like, bro, shit, like, you can just pause it, bro. You click the pause button, gang. He's just trying to help him out. That's a nice kid right there. That's a good kid. He was like, yo, you could just press pause, man. Cringe, we don't even have cringe on there. I can give you, I think we saw emoji multiple times, so I'll give you emoji.
Description: I'm a 12-year-old Sigma Chad that lives in Bogota, Colomboa. Rules: no furries, no LGBTQ,
Oh, here we go.
no
Here we
gays
go.
and trans.
All right.
Support me, subscribe to me, be a
Subscriber.
Sigma. Call me a Sigma Chad. Say Furies are bad. No
Okay.
minor Otis, no UTTP.
Okay,
Yes, go to me.
that's terrible
yes,
spelling.
USS, or yes, German 1939 to 1945.
Hey, yo, Jen, out of point. Is fucking wildin'. Nah, these boys is tripping, man. These boys is actually wildin'. Oh shit, y'all fried. Look, I'll give you bad spelling. All right, that was bad spelling in there. I'll also give you brain rot, but I do get to take away one. And what I'm taking away on my first round is 6-7. What are these kids watching, bro? This is what happens when you allow our children to be on their iPads all day unsupervised, sitting in their room like this. Look at me. I'm watching my favorite streamer, Ducky D, right now. Look at me, bro. I'm watching my favorite streamer, Ducky D. He just said ooh woo on the camera, bro. Oh my god. Look at me.
This level you are a B. Exactly, this is B game mode and the way it plays is just so interesting. Let me explain. It literally has its own unique physics, which might feel a bit weird in the first attempt.
How was
In this level, you are a bee. Exactly, this is bee game mode, and the way it plays is just so interesting. Let me explain. It literally has its own unique physics, which might feel a bit weird in the first attempts, but you get used to it. The coolest part is that the second player's button makes the bee attack and break structures.
Oh, so that's easy as hell. Just keep spamming and break everything your side then.
I'm sorry to say, but it doesn't work. You need to get used to the right timing. Anyways, really cool concept. In this level, you are a bee. Exactly, this is
How was this hours-long parkour map beaten in 3 minutes? So this map has you parkouring all the way through an enormous cave, which regular playthroughs normally take hours to do, but the former world record beat it in just over 7 minutes, which is great, right? Well, it was until someone randomly beat it in less than half of that time. The former world record holder asked me personally to figure out what they did, and so after hours spent looking for it on stream, I concluded that I'm dumb and I have no idea. But immediately after that stream, I remembered a Minecraft glitch that could get you straight to the end of the map from the very beginning. But before I reveal it, I have to ask you to please like the video, or otherwise nobody will and it gets no views, so thank you. Okay, so basically this glitch only works on old maps on this server, because despite being a vanilla glitch, the devs somehow managed to patch it. Unfortunately, this map is from before when they did that, so that's good. Anyways, all you have to do is spam crouch under a 2-block ceiling, and you get phased into the block above it for literally like half a second. And with most blocks, what this does is force you into a crawling state, so I figured if you did it right at the start, you could get into these trapdoors and skip basically the whole map, but that didn't work, and that was when I realized that the ceiling is made entirely of stairs, which are considered transparent blocks, which means you can literally just phase straight through them. So using this door, all I needed to do was spam jump and crouch, and then click on the door until it phased me through the ceiling. And from there, you can just run to the end. I post daily, so follow me now. How was this?
This gaming PC just came my shop because with a 9800 X3D and an RTX 5070, you'd expect more than 150 FPS in a simple game like Valorant. Yet that's what our customer keeps getting. So what's going on here? Anytime I see this big of a fall off when it comes to performance like this, the first thing I always like to do is figure out what's being underutilized or maybe overused hospitalized, causing some kind of limitation. And the best way to do that is to press Control, Shift, and Escape, which is a quick shortcut to go ahead and open up Task Manager, and we're going to want to go to the Performance tab right here. It gives us a quick view of all of our internal hardware and its utilization. That's the percentage of each individual component's resources being used by Windows or other applications, being logged in real time. And if we take a look at our CPU, we're sitting around 70% utilization, but our GPU is only at 5%. Which even for a very CPU-dependent game, wouldn't make sense at all, unless there's some kind of weird limitation going on with the CPU, limiting the performance of our GPU. Which I think might just be the case, because when I pulled out our customer's 5070 and put in something like a 1660 Super, well, we end up with the exact same frame rate. That shouldn't be possible, unless somehow the best CPU for gaming, the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, is a bottleneck. And if you're wondering how a 9800X3D could be a bottleneck like this, our performance this bad in a pretty easy to run game, well, I noticed something while I was checking out Task Manager, because when I was looking at the speed, I noticed it was reading over 1 billion gigahertz, sometimes 15 at any given point, which makes almost zero sense unless you've seen this issue before, like I have, which is how I know this is caused by HPET. That's short for the high performance event timer built onto your chipset that provides your operating system with a high precision timing source, used from everything from scheduling tasks to keeping applications in sync. Or at least it was used for that before modern systems switched to something called TSC, otherwise known as the timestamp counter built onto your CPU, where thanks to the speed and lower latency of newer CPUs, allows for way more accurate timing in Windows. What does all that have to do with this speed? Well, that has to do with the fact that when Windows acts up sometimes, it can cause your system to switch from TSC back to HPET, using the much slower timing source, causing Windows to receive either slow or inaccurate timing data, causing its calculations to be off, causing crazy speeds like this or poor performance like we were seeing in Valorant. So to go ahead and fix this, we're going to go ahead and press the Windows icon, then type CMD and run command prompt as an administrator. That way we can run the command bcdedit space \delete value space use platform clock, which basically tells Windows to go ahead and repick the timer that it's using, stopping HPET from being default. So let's go ahead and run that and restart the PC. We're now in Task Manager, clocks look normal, and in Valorant we went from 150 FPS to over 900 because of a timing issue with HPET. This gaming PC just came in my shop because with a 9800.
This Dell Precision cost $3,000 3 years ago and is still covered under Dell's warranty. And I found it at the bottom of my recycler's box of late-stage capitalism. But after making a video on how it got there, I decided to buy it for $300 in the hopes of turning it into my mobile editing rig. Because besides being drilled and dumped like your ex, everything still works, from the beefy 12th Gen i9 to the 3070 on meth. But my goal is to swap this holy LCD with a beautiful 4K touchscreen OLED and replace this butchered keyboard with one that hasn't been destroyed by the spinning tips of greed. But my immediate challenge is lifting 2-ton Tony here out of this very sturdy bin that can definitely support my weight. I've had better. First step is to see what's cooking inside, and judging by this massive beef sink and modular beef PU, the answer is yes. Unfortunately, every single part must be removed to access the keyboard, so I pretend it's your mother and get deep into those guts, where I ultimately reach the climax of the repair and stop to inspect the damage. Yikes. With little time to waste, I replace the Swiss cheese with grade A caviar and direct my focus towards the forbidden glory hole. Thankfully, the second greatest technician that's ever lived has provided me with a generous offering for the Gooch Collector and a 4K OLED. The greatest technician that's ever lived. Well, 12 hours later, I figure out only the GPU can power this high wattage display, so I return the screen for a full refund and proceed to enjoy my $600 4K workhorse that also doubles as a gaming laptop.
What the fuck?
This Dell Precision cost $3,000 3 years ago and is still covered under Dell's warranty. And I found it at the bottom of ultimately reached the climax. Stop technician that's ever lived. The greatest technician that's ever lived. Well, 12 hours later, I figure out only the GPU can power this high wattage display, so I return the screen for a full refund and proceed to enjoy my $600 4K workhorse that also doubles as a gaming laptop.
What the fuck?
This Dell.
It's said that a skydiver once fell from a great height, and when his parachute failed to open, he crashed onto one end of a playground seesaw. The little girl sitting on the other side was supposedly launched onto the roof of a 7-story building and landed safely. Could something that unbelievable actually happen? To test the myth, Adam built a heavy-duty steel seesaw. For a skydiver to reach terminal velocity, they'd have to fall from at least 700 feet. Since that kind of height wasn't practical, the team used a water-filled steel barrel to simulate the impact instead. They secured a crash test dummy to one end of the seesaw and dropped the barrel from 75 feet in the air. When the barrel slammed into the opposite side, the dummy shot about 20 feet into the air, but the support structure and tail end of the seesaw bent on impact. Nearly all the energy was wasted, very little of it actually transferred to the dummy. Clearly, using sheer weight to replicate a skydiver's terminal velocity wasn't realistic, so they headed to a skydiving club for real-world data. Test jumps showed that a skydiver would hit the seesaw at roughly 120 miles per hour. That speed could be recreated on the ground by pulling in the opposite direction with a bungee system and then releasing it. By this point, Adam had reinforced and redesigned the seesaw, making the structure much stronger. The skydiver's weight was roughly equal to that of an average adult. The full-scale test would take place at a shipyard. First, they fitted the dummy with an impact sensor. If the red indicator patch ruptured, it meant the dummy had suffered fatal injuries. With everything ready, the experiment began. The skydiver slammed into the seesaw at the target speed. The dummy was launched 60 feet into the air. High-speed footage revealed that the skydiver's legs never made contact with the board, only his torso did, meaning he hadn't delivered the full force of the impact. They had to try again. This time, the skydiver hit the seesaw at the full 120 miles per hour. The dummy soared far higher than anyone expected, reaching the equivalent of a 13-story building. But there was a catch. At the instant it was launched, the dummy experienced 42 Gs of force, close to the threshold of fatal injury. Myth busted. It's said that a skydiver once fell from a great height.
Hey man, what's a fan curve? Where did you hear that? Well, some guy on Reddit said he changed his graphics card's fan curve and dropped 15 degrees. He did not drop 15 degrees. Well, yes, he did. He had screenshots. He had a dusty PC in a hot room and got lucky. Fan curve is just a graph that tells your GPU fans how fast to spin at each temperature. Manufacturers set it to quiet out of the box because loud fans get bad reviews. So my fans aren't going full speed. Your fans probably won't hit 50% before your GPU is in the 80s. Your card will literally slow itself down before it maxes the fans out. That's stupid. Nope, that's marketing. But if your temps are fine, you don't need to touch anything. Most cards are designed to run in the 70s and 80s. Mine hits like 86. Okay, then open MSI Afterburner. Settings, fan tab, there's a line on a graph. Drag it up so your fans hit 70, 80% by 80 degrees instead of 40. Wait, that's it? Yeah, it's 5 seconds, it's free, and you'll probably drop 5 to 10 degrees. I took my side panel off 6 months.
Is Bloodbath possible when negative? hitboxes? Let's find out! Oh my god, what is happening? All the hitboxes are now dots? This doesn't make any sense! But that's fine, because the first part is possible, the second is... possible, I guess? Of course it is, you dummy! We just gotta pass over the strafe line section, isn't it obvious? And after that, why would he even change the game mode, right? Go to banana all the way to this shit part. Oh my, what is happening right here? I don't even know, because Mega Hack's bot is trash and it won't properly complete the damn bot! But trust me, it's possible! Is Bloodbath possible with negative hitboxes?
This is my Android phone, and after way too much work, it's finally running Windows. Now, since you're obviously not supposed to do this, let's see what it thinks the specs are. This is running natively, not a virtual machine, so in theory, it'll actually show something real. For CPU, we got the Snapdragon 855, that's actually true. Also, a bunch of like extra disks here, I don't know what that's for. RAM, we got 6 GB, which checks out. And the GPU is the LG G8S Adreno 640. So those are the phone's like actual specs. And so far, it seems like they were pretty good on Windows, except for one thing, which is the storage. This phone only has 126 GB total. I only allocated 70 for Windows because Android still has to run. So I can't really get like any insane games on here. Is what I would say if I didn't have this thing. This is USB-C to USB, and I think I could plug in an external SSD. Although honestly, I'm not sure I have one that would be fast enough to run any games. For now, I should probably just try games that'll actually fit on here. This is my Android phone, and after way too much work, it's finally running Windows. Now, since you're obviously not supposed to do this, let's see what it thinks the specs are. This is running natively, not a virtual machine, so in theory, it'll actually show something real.
Never forget the time Pixar animators accidentally shocked the entire internet with just 1 second of animation, because back in 2019, people saw a random trailer for Toy Story 4 and were freaked out by this cat. No one could believe how realistic it looked compared to the first movie. But then, a Pixar director explained the hidden reason behind it, and it's actually way more fascinating than any of us realized. Most people don't know this, but Pixar always wanted to make their movies look real. But the technology just wasn't ready, especially back on the first Toy Story.
There's just no way we wanted to choose to make it as ugly looking as the first movie.
So the geniuses at Pixar spent years developing new software to perfect the realism, and at one point they went too far and made animation that looked way too real.
The first problem we had that on was Nemo. We took shots from different National Geographic specials. I said, try to match these shots. And we did it so well we couldn't tell which one was ours and which one was theirs.
But this is where things get interesting. Since then, they have been able to scale the realism up and down depending on the movie.
Well, I went as close
you